Nice. Okay, well, hello, friends.
Hi.
It's Caitlin and it's Caitlin and a very tired Shanika. No, it's Shanika and a very tired Caitlin from Get Checkered. Get Checkered is part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown and community supported. We're going to dive quickly into an ad just to get it out of the way. This episode of Get Checkered is brought to you by Inventures. You're probably sick and tired of me doing ads for this, but it's because I'm speaking on a panel at Inventures. Wild. Inventures is your front row seat to what's next. Register now for Inventures 2022, where you can learn, share, and be inspired by the startups, entrepreneurs, investors, and global thought leaders who are redefining the future. Inventures runs June 1st to 3rd in Calgary and online, featuring more than 150 sessions, including mine, over 250 speakers, including me, international keynotes, expert panels, startup pitch events, networking opportunities, and more. Reserve your pass now at inventors.com. That's inventorscanada.com. Oh, by the way, folks, if you are heading to Inventors, June 1st is actually the beta opening of the Platform Innovation Center. So you actually get like an automatic invite to join us to celebrate the Innovation Center finally opening. So the place where I work.
Nice.
Caitlin, you've been away in warmer weather. Tell
Yes.
us the 3 highlights from your trip.
Okay, yeah. So just got back from a trip to Portugal and it was very nice. We were in the south, so we mostly kind of centered ourselves in Lagos.
Yeah.
But I actually got a trip. So one of the highlights was we were driving around one day and we came back from a sea kayaking excursion and we actually visited the Portimao autodrome.
Oh, so cool.
And we're like, there's actually like a cartodrome, I think they called it. That was actually pretty active. Lots of people were using the carts. But the autodrome itself, like it looked dead, but there was a few cars in the parking lot. And like we go up to security, going into the pit lane. I'm like, can we just like go in? Because like no one's here. That would be great to be able to go in. And he was so just not a chance. He was not entertaining it at all. And I was like, oh, okay, sir, thank you. So we're like, we literally start driving around to try and see if we can see over this wall, which, okay, it's very interesting. I've never actually seen one of the F1 tracks before. I didn't realize kind of like how much they try to prevent anyone from looking in. Yeah, which is like, I don't know. I don't I like that. But 'cause it's like, I don't know, you can have it so everyone can enjoy it. Of course, if you pay for
Yeah.
a seat, you should be able to get the best view and a seat. You don't pay for a seat, maybe you can still get in and have a better view. But yeah, the whole like the wall preventing people from seeing in, I was like, oh,
That
okay.
does sound nice.
I don't know if I love that. No. But anyways, we're driving around this thing to like try and find something to see over. And turns out there's actually cars going around and practicing in the track. That's why we weren't allowed into the pit lane. That makes sense. That's fine, sure, we can do that. And so we actually find like there's a hill next to the road that like we run up and it had like the best views that a free person could find.
Oh, that's so
That
awesome.
was fun to see. And we watched the car go around quite a few times. Sound really was exhilarating. I get what people say. Yeah, that was fun. That was a big highlight. And then what else did we do? Just the beaches. It was so beautiful. We had great weather. I got
That's nice.
sun, wore lots of sunscreen, but still got sun. Um, and then there's a place actually north of Lisbon. I have to give a shout out. Sintra. It was freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
It's so like a fairy tale. Like if you look
Oh,
up, it has like some very famous
looking
landmarks.
it up
I don't know what to
right
call them.
now.
But one of them is I think it's the Pina is how you pronounce the palace, and it's a fairy tale. It's what they based Neuschwanstein off of, I'm pretty sure, in Germany.
Oh, wow. Yeah, folks, I'm looking at photos right now and it actually looks like it's out of just a book that you would have
It's
read when you were a kid.
spectacular. It's like
Yeah.
it's very painted, but it's like it has that mustard yellow, that red, and it's just like it's the perfect cast shape, and it's like right on top of a mountain. So that was really cool. And then like the whole town of Sintra is kind of like at the bottom, and then there's like all these estates going up the mountain, which itself is like so lush and so green. And the book I was reading at the time actually was called Mexican Gothic, and it's all about like this palace, this like high place on top of a mountain, but it's like covered in mist. And I was like, I could picture that with what I was seeing here, but it was just super sunny where I was. If it was misty, it would have been like that, especially like the Gothic estate.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful tie into real life. So yeah, those were probably my top three. I love it though.
Oh, you guys look like you had such a great time. I was talking to Anisha and she said like the food wasn't like amazing, which broke my
Yeah,
heart.
we did that to ourselves, so we didn't go for seafood. So that could explain why, like seafood's where they put all their time and effort, right?
Yeah.
And we eat it. So like the food was okay. We had burgers, which is a very North American thing to do. When you travel Europe is have burgers.
There's always next time, right? Portugal's not going anywhere.
Exactly. They have their dessert. I don't know. Yeah, you can have these pastries whenever. They're pastries, you can have them for dessert. The pastéis de nata, those Portuguese tarts, it's like egg tarts.
Oh yeah. So good.
And I actually felt like my last night there, I tried something like it was chocolate salami.
Oh, how's that?
It was good.
Okay. I can maybe see that like a salty and sweet, savory sweet thing.
It's like, yeah, it's weird. It's in the shape of a salami. It looks like a salami,
But it's not a salami.
100% chocolate.
Oh.
And probably some nougat in there, I think. But it just tastes like a dry chocolate cookie dough.
Okay.
Super good.
I'm so jealous. Everyone's having a European
Right now.
summer.
If you were in Vancouver, I could give you some.
I'll be in Vancouver soon, like a month. Yeah, everyone's having a European summer, folks, while I've been dying of envy. While you were away, seriously, life hasn't changed. Just so busy with work. Like I mentioned in that ad, we're opening our freaking building into the public. So there's just a lot of stuff that needs to happen there, which is absolutely insane. I think we talked about this on an episode, Caitlin, but I started reading A Crown of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah. Oh my god, best series I've
and
read in a long time.
Any of the listeners are like me, I have 2 Bachelor of Arts degrees, so I was like a huge reader, then went to university and had to read so much that it like killed it for me, and then went into entrepreneurship, ran a business, and everyone kept recommending these like, you know, like the lean startup and all that stuff. Never finished any of those books. But this book, I actually, in less than a week, got 3/4 of the way through. So I'm just saying, if you need a book and maybe you're a little bit older, you should. So Caitlin's recommendation was spot on. And also, Mary, thank you so much for passing over your book.
You got to look out for the second book, though. That was a work of art. That's
what I've been
good.
Yeah, Mary's like reading the second one through right now, and she's like, I need to finish it because you're just finishing this one like so much faster than I expected. I was like, okay, well, yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that you're reading that. But yeah, it's not young adult, you guys. Definitely not.
I know. I feel like we have to say be older if you're reading it. And I'm only on book 1. I heard that book 2 gets a little crazier. But
and then book 5, Silver Flames, is next level.
Wild.
Anyways, I love that. That's awesome, Shani.
Yeah, it's been good. And then other than that, just like I said, working, going on lots of walks, trying to get away from my computer, but that's about it.
Okay, good. I sent you an article, Shani, and we haven't talked about it since, but the Formula E in Vancouver, why it really got canceled. Do we want to put that on the podcast?
Yeah, I didn't read all of what you said, but it just seems like all of it was just drama.
Yeah. And it seems like unnecessary drama. So what I got from this article is that the group organizing the Vancouver Formula E said they had all the contracts in place for like who's going to organize and like I think, built the garages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they didn't when they actually went to the city with like final proof or something. And yeah, they just didn't have a contract, even though they said they had someone contracted for one part of the facility. And so I
What?
was like, well, sorry. But if you don't have everything in place, like, no.
No, it's not gonna happen.
And so it just seems like someone just, they
Drop the
missed it.
ball.
That happens, but it was a big event, right? That's a global event. You have a few checkers in place to make sure everything's done. All the boxes are checked.
I think someone dropped the ball, and I think someone might be in a lot of trouble for dropping the ball on that.
It's not a good look. It because what was the article called? It was something about like
It was
embarrassing, or I'm like embarrassing in Vancouver in the same.
it was called
Great.
A Big Failure, Formula E's Verdict on Canned Vancouver Race. It's on the race's site, but I'll make sure to link it
But
in
yeah,
the description so y'all can read it. But yeah, it's just drama.
not great. So yeah, it would have been fun. Would have been a lot of fun, but next year, hopefully.
Next year, hopefully, we had a real race.
Right. Yeah.
In Formula One. So before we dive into the Spanish Grand Prix, which turned out to be so exciting and qualifying on all that, we have one more ad break. Caitlin, want to take it away?
Sure. So looking for a way to give back, ATB Cares makes it easy for all Albertans to support the causes they care about. Donate to your favorite charity through ATB Cares, and ATB will match 20% of every dollar donated to eligible Albertan charities. To learn more and to donate, visit atbcares.com.
Oh my fucking God. So I'm so sorry. I just opened Facebook. It's like my first time looking. And my dear friend Miranda, she got engaged yesterday. So I am just seeing the photos now. If you're watching this, you can see the two of them. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna cry, but
Yeah, like
he's engaged.
Shanika's like really good friends with Miranda. They've been waiting for the Shanika. Like you were helping him like plan this, weren't you?
Yeah.
So
And
that's huge.
she just messaged me and was like, I've been guiding him with the ring and stuff. So I'm just like so excited for her. I actually feel like I'm gonna cry. It's fine. We're gonna talk about the
Okay, congratulations to Miranda.
Congratulations to
Yeah,
Miranda. This has been a long time coming. We had a sneaky feeling it would happen this weekend for some reason, had a gut feeling, but oh my gosh, I'm so happy for her. And we like Will. Rarity, honestly. So talking about qualifying before I literally start crying. Kind of uneventful, except for two things. Mercedes did really, really well in free practice, 2-3, P2 and P3, and it surprised all of everyone, including I think the own drivers. So they didn't finish qualifying there, but it showed that there was pace in the car. And then it was the Aston Martins, right? The talk of the week was the fact that they look identical to the Red Bull, just in different colors.
very controversial, yeah, the Aston Martin. And like it's not the first time. Like remember who was it? Racing Point. And they fucking ripped off like the Mercedes design.
It's yeah, I don't know. Okay, so do you think my question for you is, do you think this is like the end of the story? Because they're like, well, no, we had the design in the wind tunnels in November. But the thing is, we know Aston Martin has so many ex Red Bull team people. And
Yeah.
like I understand if they had just been what is it? Like you from memory kind of like bring things to the car. But do you think there was an IP breach? Is like my big question for you.
I don't know. I think in terms of like intent, there actually was, because they
Yeah.
are literally bringing the design over, whether they do it like formally or not, or on paper, whatever. But yeah, I think the caveat would be like, how did they bring it over, and if that breached IP laws? If because I don't know if it's like, Shanka, would you know? Like if you just like from your brought it to another competitor, does that count?
See, that's like the hardest thing. I know Christian said the one piece of entrepreneurship I haven't nailed is IP, but Christian said that, if they had it just in their heads, like there's nothing you can do about it. But if there was like physical things that were copied over and brought over, that's when Red Bull would have like a leg to stand on a little bit,
Yeah.
which I agree with. I think generally like just an idea is not enough to get someone for. But if you can show that they stole something that helped build that idea, that's where you can get into some trouble. So I was seeing a lot of memes though of like people talking about how like Lawrence Stroll just like secretly like ran into the Red Bull garage and like stole the front wing or something. Like, all that kind of stuff. Oh, I guess something we should have mentioned is Max struggled through most of the free practice and summer qualifying because his DRS wing would not open properly. So let's hope that that feature is not on the Aston Martin, but they look identical, folks.
So, okay, if that does happen though, man, it's getting a little bit too close.
Yeah, it's not great. We'll have to see what ends up happening there, but I do think
if they can, like, if they're saying they can prove the design from back in November, okay, maybe that's better, but they still were in talks with people from Red Bull probably earlier.
what I don't understand though is like, okay, if you had that car with you in November, why would you wait until race 6 after you've like gotten no points and just fucked up the whole season so far to bring it forward? I think this is just the beginning. I feel like there'll be more stuff about this going on for the rest of the season, personally.
We shall see. It's really shitty. Like we haven't talked about Seb that much this season because he's been so not there doing much. And it's shitty because he deserves like a team that is honest and fair and doing well because he's a great guy. He's a great driver. It's shitty.
And today was a good race for him. But I agree. Like we want Seb in a car, and we also want him to continue racing. So if you're in a team and they can't pull it together and it's like the only seat available because these young guys and F2 are coming up, then it's like it's kind of demoralizing, it feels like.
I think it's embarrassing if your team's accused of copying other designs.
I agree. I think it's so embarrassing. And this is the second time, right? This isn't the first time.
Yeah.
So
Not good.
It didn't make them speedy at all. So I guess they may have copied the design, but the true inner workings were not copied.
And like we both know Red Bull's really designed for Max.
Yeah.
So
we need to talk about that today.
Don't copy that car.
Yeah, exactly.
Who else did well in quali? Haas did well in quali.
Yeah, and I think the big surprise for me was maybe like a negative surprise, I guess, is like I don't know what is going on with AlphaTauri. They've really, I feel like they've slid back a little bit. Because remember they were like on like head to head with Alpine. Alpine's development seems to just have skyrocketed in the car, and so they're doing better and better and better. And Alpine just seems to be struggling to keep pace. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with them. Shall we talk about race day?
Let's get to it. It was freaking early morning today.
I know. Props to Caitlin for waking up, because though I had to wake up at 6:45, I was acutely aware that she had to wake up an hour earlier than me.
Like really, it's not catered to people on the West Coast.
No.
This sport is not.
It was freaking hot though, hey?
Yeah. So, and Courtney is in Barcelona right now, is she not?
Yeah, I think like Courtney, our co-host who was on, she was in Barcelona actually and sent us photos from the track. But I wonder if it's still 50 degrees because girl, that's really hot. That's too hot for Canadians, I can tell you that.
They were saying it was 37 degrees air temperature, 50 degrees on the track. Like
no,
not
not for me, mate.
I would be downing like 16 water bottles and still feel dehydrated.
Yeah, like I couldn't imagine being a driver, but I wouldn't be able to bear sitting in the stands even, right? Because it's not
No.
like you're like, okay, the sun's just beating down on you and you can like jump into a lake or a pool or something. It's like you're surrounded by other people too, so like plus their body. Ugh, no, no, not for me. Someone who probably didn't enjoy the heat as well is Lando.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not funny, but did you see the photos of when they did the drivers parade?
No, I didn't.
So folks, like this, where they like do the little. There's like it looks like a giant trailer. All the drivers are on it. They wave at the people. All of them had umbrellas because of just how hot it was. And then you see like kind of like the drivers poke their head through, do a little wave here and there, and then Lando's just like sitting in the corner with an umbrella fully covering him. And I was like, is he okay? And I didn't see anything about him being sick at that point, but I was just like, he's just being so dramatic. But turns out the dude was very, very sick, very sick, and somehow still raced. But a lot of the symptoms that he was showing seemed very COVID-y, but he was testing negative for COVID, but it was giving COVID. So hopefully he is okay. Yeah.
I had one commenter on my side say hay fever.
He just seems like sicker than hay fever. I mean, how sick do people get with hay fever? I don't know. I don't know. But we'll talk a little bit more about him later. Caitlin, let's talk about the start and one of the teams that kind of was in a good position, but then maybe things didn't go so well.
So coming off of their high in quali, Haas was
Yeah.
like P8 for Magnussen, P10 for Schumacher.
We're thinking gold.
Yeah, right? Like good for Haas. And I mean, great for my fantasy team, right? But anyways, besides that point. Yeah, so great starting, and then like it just kind of went shit in the first lap. K Mag actually ends up like bumping with Lewis, and both of them suffer pretty bad. Like Lewis ends up in P19 and K Mag's in P20, like way back. And I was like, oh my God. But I was like kind of hoping they would pick up speed. And you see Lewis throughout, like he's picking up speed, he's gaining track position, but K Mag just never fully recovered. Like they each went in for a pit stop. K Mag changed from I think to softs at this point. He started on mediums, he went to softs. And yeah, he just never caught up a lot of time. He ends up passing like Alex Albon at the end of the race, and that's who he passes. So fantasy team did not do well in that regard, and it gets worse. It gets worse.
Yeah, so the incident between the two was considered just a racing incident, which I think we all figured. But for Mick, who was in P10, all of us thinking he'll finally get his first points in Formula One, hold on to that P10. That didn't happen either. Yuki Tsunoda kind of passed him very, very close to the end and cost him his points. And then I think he just really struggled with pace after that because he ended up finishing the race in P14. So
just like P6 at a point, hey?
Yeah, he was doing really well. And I was so impressed because, we're so used to K-Meg leading the team, but here's Mick like actually getting competitive, being able to race amongst people. And then it just didn't end up so well for them.
It'll come together. It will.
I know he will get his points this year. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, Haas. I was like, I saw their quality and I was like, damn, I should have put them as like the manufacturer for fantasy, and I'm very glad I did.
I'm gonna be honest. I love that Caitlin is so on top of her fantasy team. I completely forgot this week. So I'm just hoping. No, I have a team, but I just didn't, make adjustments.
I made bad adjustments, so it's.
I'm just hoping that my current lineup it does fine. The talk though today was freaking Ferrari, eh?
Yeah.
It was a great start by Charles. I was like, go, get Max.
Because it was him against Max on the first row, and it was elbows out from Charles, and it was impressive. He just like
so good.
beeline to get in front of Max, and like no chances in passing. So very good, very good.
And
Carlos didn't have a good start though. I really was
oh
holding out hopes. Everyone's like, Caitlin, who do you want to win this race? And I'm like, realistically, like I want Charles to win.
yeah,
Um, Optimistically, how great would it have been if
open to
Carlos
see
could
Carlos
win?
take it. I like if you watch that start, the way that Sergio Perez like cut across, and then also everything that happened with Lewis and K-Mag, it just like I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on with Carlos, but I think some of the we need him to feel confident, and I don't know where we get that. But yeah, he had a really slow start and then ends up in the gravel trap pit thing. And this is something that we saw happen to Max later, but it turns out there's like a wind gust,
Mhm.
which knocked Carlos off, maybe. But
There
it
was
cost him a
he
few
wasn't hitting
spots.
anyone. No one bumped
No.
into him. He just went off, and everyone's kind of like, "Is that driver error?" It's so weird to see a top driver have a driver error like that. And no, it was like they said it was a wind gust at that turn
Which
four.
I think is so funny because we know these cars are so heavy, especially in the opening laps, but just like a giant wing gust, take them.
Is that
Okay.
think about it, Shanika? If you're on the highway and a wind gust takes your car like 3 centimeters over, I'd be
There was one time I was on Crowchild and there was a wind gust and I could feel my Civic move. But I drive a Honda Civic. What weight does a Honda Civic have? Nothing. No weight. Oh God. For the rest of the race though, we see him like slowly kind of work his way back up, which is good, really taking advantage. I felt like this race, there was no like everyone was just doing whatever. You know what I mean? People were pitting at random times.
yeah. It was a free for all in this race.
People were on like some people were on medium, some were on softs, like
I
all
was
of that kind of stuff. I was like, okay.
watching this race live in the stands. I'm like, how do you keep track?
Yeah, you
They
wouldn't be
have
able
boards
to.
for the top 10.
It yeah, you would not be able to. It was like it was so hard. I had no idea
Like
what was happening half the
early
time.
on, people were getting lapped. Like it was all over the place. But it's more exciting than last year's Spanish GP.
100%. I was telling the my partner who I was watching this with, but he like I was just saying no one expected this from the Spanish GP. So it was good to see. And then full devastation for Charles
Absolutely.
Leclerc.
He's like out in the open. He's doing well. He was on pole and he was in P1 for like half the race. Not even half. But yeah, no, you just hear Charles's like power kind of cut out on his car.
Yeah.
And you hear him go on the radio, he's like, "What? No!" And I'm like, "No."
No. Sorry, it's not funny, but like when you listen to what happens in the cockpit, it's exactly what Caitlin says. You just like hear the engine cut and you're like, oh my God, there's no way. And then sure enough, it's just
Right? Like
over.
it's turned off, but it has to turn back on. It has to turn back on. It didn't. It was the poor boy. He
And you
went
see
in.
slowly get to the pit lane, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would be crying. I would be crying. Oh God. And we know that, it ends up being an engine issue, but how many cars have the Ferrari engine, right? Like if you see someone die because of power failure that has the same engine as you, you start to get like maybe not feeling so great about what's about to happen.
Right?
Mhm.
But oh my God, just horrifying. I was talking to someone else and we're talking about like, so Charles being on pole, like can't get too excited. And I'm like, oh, he should be fine on this race. Oh,
We're like,
but did you see Shanika like how good he was with all the guys in the garage?
yeah. And Matea said that too in the post race interview. He was saying that, like, of course, they need to figure out what happened, all that kind of crap, the usual stuff from the principals. But something he highlighted was like, Charles, sorry, was obviously upset, but still got out of the car, shook everyone's hands, gave people hugs, and was like,
Yeah.
okay, like, we'll move forward from this, which is a lot of maturity that I personally would not have in that moment.
No,
Uh,
it was very respectable. I was impressed with Charles.
mhm. Carlos finished in P4 though. held his own, snagged that spot back in the last like lap or so. So that's his best ever finish at the Spanish Grand Prix, which we love to see. Improvement
Yep.
is good. But the Ferrari team has now unfortunately lost the lead on the constructors, I believe, and the drivers' championship. So the season is shaping up to be quite interesting.
Maybe back and forth, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You noted Alfa Romeo here, which I feel like Valtteri doesn't get enough clout. He did so well in qualifying,
Yeah.
like, and
He's
then
well.
did great in the race.
He's so, and one of the commenters was saying during an interview, Valtteri said this is the happiest he's been in his life.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that's so great. I'm happy for
I
him.
like that. That's cute. And like you can tell if he's driving well, like he's happy about driving, he'll try new stuff. He says in his personal life he's happy. And I'm like, you know what? Go for it, Valtteri. That's what we really strive to be in this life.
That's true.
So you go for it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, he did well. I think the only thing that screwed him sort of in the end is a lot of the teams ended up swapping to 3-stop strategies. Like that was the way to go. And Valtteri was still on a 2-stop. So towards the end, his tires just like really started to struggle. And with the pace of the Ferrari and the pace of Lewis Hamilton, which we'll talk about because holy crap, it just was hard for him to hold position. But best of the rest did really, really well.
Best of the rest. Yeah. So impressive. The his teammate is on my fantasy team, Shanika. So this was bad to see after seeing Charles, who's also on my fantasy team, go out with
Yeah.
Guan Yu goes out with a DNF too.
Lord. This is his third DNF of the season, folks. This is not boding well for someone who is junior, who it's just not great. He needs to get lap times, right? Like regardless if he wins or gets points, but it's more so he needs to get comfortable in a freaking car, and he's not even getting the opportunity because 3 DNFs. 3.
6 races.
It is just not great. I am, yeah.
That was because they were definitely watching like the Charles thing, and then there was the Max and George battle in the background they were watching. So like this happened and there was no airtime, and then they're like, oh, they just show him in the garage. I'm like, no, that's not where he should be. Why is he doing that?
And I don't know who came and like kind of gave him a side hug to talk to him, but I was like, it's good though that the folks like with Charles slowing down and that Guan Yu having whatever power issue he had, that they were both able to get off the track without like causing like a safety car or anything like that. Like it was just like safely able to leave. But like we both said, just not good for Guan Yu at all. He needs to get more laps in to get used to the vehicle.
I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping for a safety car. I wasn't hoping for any like serious incidents or nothing. Yeah. I'm like, safety car could bring K-Mag back into the mix.
I was hoping for a safety car too, but to be honest, I kind of wanted, you know, as we kind of got on later on with the race and it was like predictable to see we would have a Red Bull 1-2 spoiler. I was kind of like, can like a Monza happen where like something's timed perfectly and then the random person wins? Like that would be nice. That didn't happen, but that would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with McLaren? We know that Lando was sick, but he somehow did a great job.
Yeah, he did okay, especially at the beginning of the race.
Finished
he definitely lasted a few people. He went past Danny Rick pretty easy too.
Every time they showed Danny Rick, he was getting passed so easily. Like there was no elbows out. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Do you just not have pace in the car? So Danny finished P12 and like I said, Lando finished P8. So not the worst split, but I don't know what was going on. They're just like not competitive.
Well, yeah, they were okay after quali, I think, right?
Yeah.
And like they showed up a bit. They were okay. They were okay, and it was a disappointing okay during the race, if that makes sense. Because it's like I put them as my like manufacturer for the fantasy this week, just because I couldn't pick Ferrari.
Yeah, which might have been fine,
right? It's maybe it wasn't awful, not a Red Bull choice, but yeah, no, and it's like Lando could really bring that McLaren up, but Danny Rick is just he's still not found his groove, and it's been a season and a quarter now.
Yeah.
Like, is he gonna find his groove? I don't know. It's hard to like root for him because then you're gonna get disappointed.
Oh, Caitlin, I wish we could clip you because I think you're saying what every Danny Rick fan is saying right now.
It's like I will always love Danny Rick, I think. Hilarious. It's Australian. But it's just like I'm gonna put my effort somewhere else where I can maybe be rewarded for my cheering. There was on a side tangent about Danny Rick though. I was at the bar watching Calgary Flames Friday, and I shit you not, I tried to get a picture and it was not conspicuous at all. There was a guy that was his doppelganger at the bar, Shanika. I was dying. I know it wasn't Danny Rick because he's in Barcelona. This guy didn't have tattoos on his arms, but like his face, he had the same hair. And I was like, are you trying to look like Danny Rick? Like he had the same nose. Who like not many people have that nose.
Yeah, it's a very like particular nose. It's a very Danny Rick nose.
And then I was at the beach yesterday, and there was another guy that looks like Danny Rick. So I don't know what's going on here in Vancouver. I think people are just maybe trying to look like him now. They're like, give me the Danny Rick haircut, and because I got the facial structure for it.
I love it. I live for it. Speaking of Danny though, since we're going on these side tangents related to Danny Rick, Danny was on oh god, there's a YouTube video. It's the one where he like answers the internet's questions about him. So I'll make sure to link it. You can watch it. He's like his charming self. But I do think we've talked about this last episode, I think, or a few episodes ago. He's doing a lot of American press. Obviously he's an F1, but I do think he's starting to build his brand outside of it because he does see that his time might be coming to an end, which is unfortunate, but I think likely happening.
He's really going to try and stay on for 2023 season because of Vegas. Like he said it jokingly, but I really don't know if it's a joke.
Right. I'm like, I don't think it's happening. Sorry, dude. Anyways, in the post-race interviews, there wasn't anything from Danny and there wasn't anything from Lando because he was really sick. Instead, though, they had is that the Sky News person? Yeah, because I was watching Sky News. He was just like standing outside the McLaren trailer, which was like, I felt so awkward where he's like, yeah, Lando's not doing any interviews. He's got checked in with the doctor and he was just standing outside the trailer. And I was like, what's the purpose of you being there, sir? It's like so weird. I don't know. It was weird. I didn't love it. But one of the teams that surprised all of us this weekend, freaking Mercedes.
Yeah. We're gonna get into a bit of a Mercedes talk, and then it'll be the big Red Bull one, but there will be ties. Because that was pretty epic between what we saw with George and Max today.
Huge.
That was.
It was chef's kiss racing.
So you already briefly mentioned like the whole K-Mag and Lewis bump situation on that one. So Lewis ends up like P19.
Because Lewis ends up with a puncture, which like
sucked. So he does make his way up. It's pretty impressive actually seeing where he ended up, because I think Bono went on the radio and he's like, we can still aim for P8. Yeah. And even I was like optimistic, dude. Like, really? See how far back he is? And I was proven wrong, which happens quite often. So yeah, no, like Lewis did good. Not as good as George though. Again though, it's a trend, Shanika, is it not? George is showing up a little bit more than Lewis.
Seriously, it was we'll give credit where credit's due. This was like one of, I think, Lewis's best drives, like for P19 to finish where he finished.
I think the implications of his good drives though, Shanika, is the Sao Paulo GP where he was like 25th.
And won. But that's I was so impressed with Lewis because he came on that radio and he was like, save the engine, guys. Like he wanted to retire the car. And Bono, I think, talked him up enough to be like, no, just race like P8, still points. And Lewis finished P5, and we'll dive into, he could have finished P4 actually. But like you said, Georgie was insane.
Yeah.
Like
He was like,
in a car that was slower, elbows out, working his ass off. Max Verstappen could not get past Georgie.
yeah, it was a solid battle for a solid length of time where Max was like right
Yeah.
behind him. And a bit of unfortunate car stuff for Red Bull prevented Max from doing DRS on the main drag, which would have shortened this experience.
Lengthy.
But for like us as spectators, and I think for George too, like it was amazing.
He had the biggest smile on his face. And one of the things that Caitlin noted here, which actually came into Lewis's car too, was the cool car warning. So he was like 10 seconds behind Leclerc, and then that pops up. And apparently
there was no cars around him giving him hot air or anything. It was just him driving on his own.
So it turns out it's some sort of water leak situation, because Lewis, towards the end of the race, gets the same thing where his team jumps on. They say, you are going to get a DNF. Like, you need to coast. And if that means Carlos Sainz gets that P4, then that's what happens. Which they, after the race, but like, it was a water thing. We had a leak. It sucks, but yeah. Also in the post-race stuff, speaking of Lewis's pace, folks, I don't know if we can highlight this enough. According to Sky News Germany, he was 1/10 off the pace of Max. And if there was more laps and not this like cooling issue, he could have won. That's how fast he was.
That's impressive because they have not had the pace up until now.
No, absolutely not.
That is promising. That's good for Mercedes. I know a lot of people were excited after these upgrades too.
So. I know. I was so happy. Toto in the post-race interview, it's so funny because like I think he wanted more for Lewis, but he said, I'm generally a pessimistic man. So like, yes, this is a good weekend. Like, Caitlin, is that a Capricorn thing? Please tell me.
Fairly the Capricorn man thing.
I was like, bro, just like, be happy. And of course, Georgie was elated, like so happy he got the P3. He's so happy where the team's at. Both of them were a little hesitant to be like, Mercedes is back, but they're like, there's more stuff. Like, we can learn more what happened this weekend. Like, it's a good showing. Even Lewis at the end came on the radio and said like he was really, really happy with the results and like that this whole weekend was a good sign for the team. So yeah,
that's promising. And that's something all of us need to consider now going forward.
Right. Especially if you are on a fantasy team, reconsider Mercedes. Something happened with these upgrades.
So with Grid Rival, like Mercedes is still very expensive. And up until this point, they did not deserve the price they were at. Okay.
Maybe that's feedback we can give Ross and them.
I like bought them like last race. Oh, what cheap, like a stock. Buy them at the bottom.
Buy them when they're at the bottom. So right now they are third in the constructors. George is also third. Lewis is, I think, like fifth or sixth or something. So a bit lower, but again, this is really good progress for the team. The team that took it home, and like there's going to be controversy around this, Red Bull baby. What did you think?
Hectic. Just I could not believe like the issue they were having. I'm like, how is this real? They did phenomenal. Max had a good start. Checo had an amazing start. So Checo had
brilliant
race. Yeah.
He had a brilliant start and a brilliant race.
And I remember like there comes a point eventually at which Checo has the pace to get past Max. And he literally is asking to like, hey, like, can I pass Max? I have the pace to keep going. I have fresh tires. And he's like making these points, and they're valid points. They're true points. And the team did not give him the yes.
We need to talk about this because first of all, Max having DRS issues, hilarious. But also his radio to the team, he was so angry, which I understand. But it just is so, I don't know if it's just Max's radio where it sounds like he's in a fishbowl. Or like kind of sounds like a carburetor.
I think it might be like something.
I'm like, babe, what is this? Like, yeah, we know you're screaming at them, but like if we don't understand you, I don't think they do. But this Checo situation, dude, like
So, and before that, like
Yeah.
Max came out with fresh tires
Yeah.
and he was immediately allowed to pass Checo, right? Like, no questions asked. And the commentators on my side were like, well, you obviously know who the number one driver is. I'm like, yeah, yeah. But then just a few laps later comes a very valid reason why Checo should be allowed to pass Max, and they don't give him the go ahead.
No.
Like they
And
give Max, and that's how Checo gets in front. But like,
I
no.
hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so bad because as Checo said he wants to be at a team where he can win, right? Like win
Yeah,
races.
yeah,
And this early in the season, there's 6 races in. I understand like this is the way for Red Bull to, or not Red Bull, sorry, Max to lead the championship. But it does feel a little bit early to call team orders. And also in the post-race interview, Christian was like, I'm glad Sky News pressed him on it. Like all 3 of them did, which was good. But he was like weirdly backpedaling and trying to over explain like their decision making, which if you have to overly explain something,
yeah,
you're probably in the wrong.
yeah, and you know it.
And when the race finished, even Checo said, like, I'm happy for the team, but we have to chat. Yeah, that's what he said. And I'm like, yeah,
Good
dude.
for Checo, because yeah, he says he wants to win, and I
Yeah.
wonder if Red Bull told him, yeah, we can get you a world title, blah 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 blah. But then actions speak louder than words, because if you're not actually going to follow through with that, of course he's going to be pissed at you for that.
Yeah,
And I'm glad he's called
exactly.
him out on it, because that's a Red Bull thing to do. They deserve to be called out.
And it really sucks because, it didn't feel fair. Because even with this last season, what we've seen with Mercedes is like Mercedes is even letting George and Hamilton race. There have been times where Lewis has not been too happy about it. um, but it is because it's so early, right? Like it's not, we're not in a situation like last year where it was like every single point really mattered. Of course, maybe in the end it will, and we'll all be like, okay, this move made sense, but he had more pace. And I'm going to pull, this was like something I saw on Twitter, but when you look at the speed of the cars, the fastest was Checo for a good portion. I think it was like 25% of the race. And then 75% of the race was Lewis. And then it was Max and then Russell. So even when you look at the speeds of the vehicles, like Checo, if he was put on the regular 3 strategy, which they swapped Max onto, um, could have won, is what I'm saying. Actually, probably wouldn't have because his own team won't let him win. But I'm just saying, I think it's ridiculous. You need like that shit's not gonna fly. And then Max passing him, being like, "Oh, thanks, mate." I'm like, "Oh,
I know. Yeah. It's like, and I think Checo last season he would have played nice. He helped Max get that world champion, but yeah, Checo is older. We've talked about it before, and he wants a world championship himself.
yeah,
He's a good enough driver to actually, I think, do it. He has a good car. He should be given the chance, like an equal chance from his team.
100%, 100%." And
Not like
also,
a second driver.
exactly, don't do that to your drivers because something else that I feel like you're alluding to is they have had the hardest time finding a second driver a driver to pair up with Max, right? Like none of them have been able to do it. Checo came in year 1 with a car that was fit for Max, made it work enough, and now in year 2 is doing so well.
And you
Let
will
him
let him race. Exactly.
let
Let
him
him
race.
be competitive.
Yeah, let him race. And in the post-race interview, Christian kept saying like, oh well, it came back to tires. He was like, well, Max was on this set of tires and Checo was on this set. And the Sky News team wasn't really like, they were pressing him on it because it's like not a good enough reason. But he just didn't have an answer. Like the answer is that Max is the golden boy and they want Max to win everything, which is not going to fly. And also Checo is older. He's been around longer. He's not like Pierre, who was so young coming into the team. Alex Albon, so young coming into the team. Like I'm sure Checo is going to give them a little bit of hell behind the scenes and say like, no, like I'm happy for my team, but this is not it. And Red Bull still would have been on top of the constructors if the 1-2 was Sergio and Max.
right? Like this favoritism is definitely in the favor of Max again. And Max already has his world championship from last year. If he can't beat his own teammate, does he deserve to have another world championship? No, no.
Oh,
Red Bull itself is obviously you have two great drivers. You're going to be fine. Let them be competitive. See
yeah.
who's best this season.
Yeah. And if it gets to the point where they're getting too close and there's potential for accidents, trust your drivers enough to not do that. Like you should be able to trust Max enough if Perez has the speed to pass him to not impede his own teammate and take them both out of the race.
Exactly. Like it's not gonna. We know Checo is more mature,
Yeah.
and Max has even matured since the whole like Danny Rick and Max incident
Yeah.
a few years ago. Like, and we're not at that point, and we know that these drivers 99% would not do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, folks, we like ran through the whole race. We are at Monaco next. Caitlin, any predictions?
Oh,
It can just be like
okay, well,
boring.
let's throw some excitement in here. Let's say Georgie win. Let's say Mercedes comes out killer in quali and then starts off strong from pole, and it's hard to overtake
Yeah.
Monaco. So
I would love in Monaco, I would love a Lewis Hamilton win because I think he needs it for his ego a little bit right now. But also it's Monaco. Charles, I don't know when he last finished a race in Monaco. So
he can't have pole.
if
Sorry, Charles. You can have second spot, and maybe that'll be okay for you. Also, talking about it being Monaco, let's get some redemption for Valtteri this
yeah, seriously, something for Valtteri. He's doing really
time.
well. Maybe, I mean, we know how this race goes. It's fairly boring because you can't really overtake. So let's hope for like one good overtake. Maybe lots of undercuts in the pits, but
strategy and everything.
I don't know. I'm just hoping for something.
Or Carlos, just bring it home, please. Just redeem yourself.
Exactly. That's all. But I think that's it for today, folks. Caitlin's desperately got to go sleep. I have to go golfing. Fun. I know. I have a set of golf clubs now too, folks. It's crazy. It's wild. Caitlin, you know this. I picked up golf last year.
Jesus.
I know. But follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Get Checkered. Go check out our website, getcheckered.com. If you're interested in just joining our little team, so doing social writing for us, just shoot us an email and we promise we'll get back to you. And until Monaco.
Until next week, amigos.
Yeah. Stay checkered, friends. Bye, everyone.